Good morning, everybody. Happy holidays. How are you all doing? It is Sunday. It is that time of the week. What up, Turtle Dust? Uh, Ben Tomes, Transcendental Artist Studio, Jeef Kallian, uh, Albert Forgy. I can't mess up the names. I'm trying to mess up the names. What up, everybody? I'm just being goofy. Uh, it is the end of the year, and we have turned the Christmas lights on, as you can see. Uh, hope y'all enjoy that. Hope it doesn't drive y'all nuts. But with that, it's a Roy summoning spell because I've got to apologize to him for missing the stream. But I have a good excuse. I was hosting a poker tournament. So, how y'all doing? How was your fortnight? It doesn't have the same ring as how was your week?
Hadn't how was your
Hey.
week?
Yeah, mine was a freaking roller coaster, man. Somebody really important to me was in a bad way, and do what?
I said, ooh.
Oh yeah, okay. Anyways, and so that had me in a bad spot, and I mean, to the point where they sent me a message saying goodbye,
Ooh.
and that they loved me and they're proud of me and this, that, and the other. And I mean, like I lost my crap. I mean, like I fell apart at the seams, and it was rather embarrassing. But I mean, it happens sometimes, and after it took me a couple days to come back from that. And what I finally realized is I can't. I am I am in this position because I'm overly worried about a situation that I cannot affect, and that's kind of a waste of my energy and emotion to be sitting here in a panic attack and worried and everything about something that I can't change. I can't. There's nothing I can do to change what is or is not going to happen. All I can do is just give words of love and encouragement and hope for the best. And that's that kind of that self-realization. I did like an hour and a half worth of therapy with the version of my therapist that lives in my head, and that's how I came up with that. But my therapist hates that because he feels like he should be getting paid for the version of him that's in my head.
Yeah. Therapists hate
But
this one simple trick.
yeah, right. And then, well, I see that not only works for me because I mean I've been seeing the same guy for 2.5, 3 years, something like that. And I mean, like, so I kind of can know what he's going to say, and so it works out that way. But yeah, and then this week has been going really good. Um, or at least the last 5 or so days, maybe I don't know. I don't remember when it was when I kind of fell apart there. Ben knows, but yeah. This week, I managed to get some good work in. I got in like a couple full days of 7 days to die, just because I have fun with that. And
It's like an adult
yeah,
Minecraft.
yeah. And I went to or I was home like last weekend, and did a little bit of work on my monthly project. I got one, two, and two and a half of the three pieces done. And the last bit of the last one is going to be like 4 hours worth of work. And so if I don't get a dispatch today, I'm headed home in the morning, and then I'll be home for the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. And I'm hoping I can knock that monthly blacksmith challenge project out. Um, but of course, that is always subject to my state of mind. I have to be in the right headspace to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm in a good place now in my head, and um, you know, I got I got things I got things in motion that are all almost done, and I'm not as stressed as I was a week ago. That's for damn sure. Adam, how was
Good.
your fortnight?
My fortnight's going to be really short and sweet. I worked and then I got sick. So I've, for those of you that don't know, since I was 16, I've had you could call it an illness, but really it's a virus called Barmer Forest. So Barmer Forest virus. It's basically called viral arthritis, and only ever crops up every couple of years. So anyway, last week at work, it started flaring up on me. I started feeling it in my joints and whatnot, and so I was feeling a bit run down. And then this week was my staff Christmas party for my regular job. So I went to that, and so that was Wednesday night. And then Thursday, I thought I was just hungover because we had an $800 bar tab, and between me and my workmates, we drank it, and we had a great time. It was a fantastic party, but we cleared out the bar tab. So I thought I was hungover on the Thursday because I felt like I'd been hit by a Mack truck. But then it continued Friday, and I was by Saturday, which was when the Great Blacksmith giveaway with Roy was. I was. So anyone that was in there would have seen me comment that Jess reading her stories and the poems put me to sleep at the halfway point. I was literally on the couch, rugged up in a blanket in 30 odd degree weather, shivering and sweating. I was very, very, very ill. I'm still recovering from that now, and that's because I normally don't get sick as a general rule. Even when I got COVID, it barely touched me. I was down for about a day or two, and I was sweet. But this knocked me over because my immune system was already down, so it knocked me over. And so I'm still recovering from that now. I feel a lot better. The Saturday afternoon was when when the fever and everything broke, and I started feeling better. And for me, like I was sleeping and I literally woke up because I kind of felt a pop, like it was maybe a psychosomatic thing, but I felt like a pop in me, and it was like, oh, I feel much. I woke up and I felt much better. But yeah, so that's been my fortnight. I really haven't done anything because I've just been trying to recover, and that comes back to the old saying of look after yourself. Make sure you keeping your fluids up and make yourself get better. Because if you run yourself down too much, you'd end up getting worse. So that's pretty much it for me. However, there was one more thing on Saturday night. We had my little family had our Yule celebrations, and
Nice.
to follow on from a little bit of a conversation we were having. Just before stream, Yames, that's not a knife. That's a knife. So just to give you an idea, that's beside my head. So I got given for Yule. I got given a rather large, knife for Yule. So that'll be
very
going
cool.
into my car. Because I always like to keep a knife in my car for emergency situations. And see, by rights here in Australia, according to the law, I can't carry that around in public unless I've got a reason. However, because I live out bush, I can have a knife in my car just in case. I could say I can put if I hit a roo or something like that, I can use that to put the animal down or whatnot. So, same reason why I'm carrying a machete in my car. So
You can't use the reason because I wanna. Like you can.
no.
The law states you can't carry a knife in your car unless you have a reason. I would state the reason because I want to.
You have to
I
have a
mean, it's a
legitimate
reason.
and
It's a
because I
legitimate
want to,
reason.
it's not.
My wants and needs supersede the law. I would be unstoppable if not for law enforcement and physics.
But I mean, hey, like that, you could have a fishing knife in your car, and I go fishing on a regular basis. That's a legitimate reason. I
Like
actually have
I
three.
whittle.
Exactly. That's I whittle as a pastime. So as long as you got a stick in your
Yeah.
and a whittling knife in the car, it's a
Have
legitimate
a
reason.
couple carvings in the back seat, and like just a chunk of wood. Okay, yeah, and then they go, all right, show us, and then just be like, okay, shave, shave, shave. This might take a while, officer. Shave, shave.
I saw you raise your hand, Alexis.
Yeah, no, there's this person that I follow on Twitch, and she lives in Sydney, and every now she goes live about, I don't know, about 8, 9, 10 o'clock my time here, and every now and then I pop in and chit chat with her, and we were talking the other day about because I carry pepper spray. I like it. I have a can of pepper spray attached to my purse, and I also can concealed carry. I don't really carry my firearm stays in my vehicle, but I carry the pepper spray around with me. And then I was telling her about that. She's like, "Oh, no, that doesn't fly here. You can't
Nope.
carry pepper spray." And she's like, "You can't
Nope.
even carry a knife without having a good reason for it." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "How are you supposed to protect yourself from like thugs or something?" And she's like, "Oh, you have to call the police." And I'm like, "Fuck, they're not going to get there before I'm dead."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also got to realize that in Australia, there's less likelihood that you're going to die. But okay, so the way Australian law works with self defense is you are able to use reasonable force. Okay, now when I do that in air quotes because, for example, and this has happened in Australia, if for example I'm alone with my wife, right? If a single man comes to my home and does a home invasion and stuff like that, and he is empty-handed, right? I am allowed to use empty-handed or a broomstick, for example, right? Because I'm protecting my wife, right? So I'm allowed to use reasonable force. I can use a broomstick to beat him up and contain him or whatnot.
Not
And
Lucille.
hey,
But
I said, but not Lucille.
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah,
Now,
Lucille is the bat.
yeah. How do you know he's
exactly. I'm not allowed
single?
to use Lucille,
How
right?
do you know he's
Well,
single?
and again, it's reasonable, right? If I have good reason to suspect he's not alone, then I'm allowed to use a bit more force. I was about to get to that. So, say for
So
example, I suspect there's two, or I know that there's two, then I'm able to use a bat. Right, because I'm or a golf club or whatnot, right? Again it escalates. So if there's five,
hold
for
on,
example, I can pull a knife.
hold
It's
on.
too late,
So
Yamez. It's too late.
no,
You
it's
already
not.
missed the window.
So no, it's not. So if one guy shows up, you can defend against that. But your wife's not allowed to join you because then it's 2-on-1 and he can escalate. Then he can use a bat, right? Like if
No,
if
because you
he's
can't.
breaking
Because
into your place and he's unarmed, and then you and your wife attack him, then he can grab a bat legally, right?
no, because
Oh,
unlike in the US, a criminal can't sue for damages here in Australia because you can't because you cannot be a victim whilst in the process of committing a crime. So for example,
right.
everyone knows the famous case of the burglar falling through the skylight and cutting themselves on the knife on the chopping board in the US, right?
Yeah.
That type of thing won't happen in Australia because they are in the process of committing a crime. There is no burden of safety for the criminal.
Ben
That's awesome.
asks. Ben asks, "How do you know he is single?" I think Ben's looking for somebody. Did you get his number?
Yeah, but
He wasn't wearing a wedding ring, so
I've actually had that situation. It wasn't a home invasion, but my car was getting broken into. This is many, many years ago. And my car was getting broken into in the middle of the night, and I happened to be up, and I watched it happen. So I actually walked down and surprised the guy that were breaking in because the car was parked on the street, and I live in an apartment at the time. And I walked around and said, "Oh, you guys are right. No, yeah, no, we just locked our keys in the car, and they were trying to break in." And oh, really? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I went, "You mean these keys?" And they went, "Holy fuck!" And they started to attack me, and I kind of bounced one's head off the side of the car, and then I took the other one, and he took off. I took the other one down and kind of knelt on the back of his head and waited for the cops to arrive with a citizen's arrest.
Regular John Wick over
And-
here.
No, well, I crash tackled the second one and bounced, and because I asked the policeman later on and said, if I happen to bounce his head off the concrete 4 or 5 times, is that all right? And he went, it was a citizen's arrest. He was trying to escape. He was attacking you. You just happened to tackle him and bounce his head off the concrete a couple of times. Whoops.
So I
was
see
like,
a way to
good cover.
I see a way to capitalize on this. So you have like a list of approved weapons of escalation based on how many people you have attacking you. Okay, set in stone. That's the law in Australia. So what we need to do is, you know them like tool hangers that they use in garage to hang rakes and stuff. Okay, get that with a metal plaque above it with like a picture of 1 person, 2 person, 3 person. Like all the way up to like you're hanging your Gatling gun if you've got like 50 people coming after you.
Well, see, and see now that's a common misconception because the use of firearms in self-defense is generally a no-no here in Australia. However, there is a caveat to that, right? Is in the event, so say for example, 3 guys come to my house and they're all armed with machetes, right? I am, particularly if my wife's home, I am perfectly within my legal right, if I owned a firearm, to protect myself with that firearm because of the danger that is posed. Now, this isn't legal advice, and this is my experience with the court and case law that I have seen, and the situations that I have seen in firearms and used in self-defense, because you're not allowed to use firearms in self-defense in general here in Australia, and you will still get charged with a crime. However, the courts generally look at it as, like, again, if you had multiple attackers coming at you with weapons and you have a firearm, then they kind of go, okay, look, we can understand using it in self-defense in that manner, as long as you aren't, for example, shooting to unalive somebody is not okay in any circumstance, unless of course you're law enforcement here in Australia. So, so that it's that reasonable force. So, I mean, like I said, I do know of a situation very close to where I live where that type of situation happened only a couple of years ago, and the gentleman was acquitted for the crime because it was kind of like, well, he did get a fine, he did get a charge of some description, but he wasn't, it was downgraded from, assault with a deadly weapon because of the situation, the surrounding circumstances. So again, and like I said, there's nuances to it. People say you can't use firearms, and in general, yes, you aren't able to, but except for very specific and circumstances. So again, that's another reason. Saying you're not allowed to carry pepper spray. No, you can't carry pepper spray here in Australia. However, hairspray makes or deodorant, particularly to the face, makes a very effective deterrent, and you're able to carry that type of thing.
Yeah, but pepper spray reaches out like 12 feet, so I mean that you don't have to be that close. And I was just I was just musing on that, and of course this situation is also predicated on the assumption that you legally own that firearm. It's not one that you've just had stashed away since before the gun ban and things like that.
Yeah. No, if you get caught with an illegal weapon, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah.
What if it's not a firearm? What if it's like a water powered or air powered projectile device, force multiplier?
So for example,
spring loaded.
I mean,
depending on where you are in Australia, so for example, here in the Northern Territory, we are able to own crossbows up to 70 pounds. Because they for some reason they're still in pounds. Crossbows are still in pounds, but we're allowed to have. But I think Northern Territory is the only jurisdiction in Australia where you're allowed to own a crossbow. Whereas an air rifle, for example, a slug gun or BB guns, I don't think are illegal in Australia, but slug guns and stuff like that, they are actually a specific section under the Firearms Act. They are still classified as firearms.
I wanted to interject. You said 75-pound pull?
I think 70. I think it's 70.
You can't even You can't even pull your shoulder at 75 pounds.
No, I can't pull that. But no, this one that I have right here, I bought that 11 years ago, 12 years ago when I lived in Wyoming, so I could from inside my house, like I could just open the glass part of the screen door and I could shoot a bolt through the screen, right? Because they literally would be eating in my flower bed, and my wife would not let me fire the 30-06 out of the office. So I bought the crossbow, and I never got a chance. I mean, other than target practice and sighting it in and all that, I never got a chance to use it. But I bought the second fastest crossbow in the world at the time. It's like 55 feet per second below supersonic. And it's a 350-pound pull. At the time, the only crossbow more powerful was a Ghost 400, and it was like 5 pounds or 5 feet per second subsonic. I mean, insanely fast. And I have no use. I've never used this in 10 years for anything other than target practice 10 years ago. And I took it out of my garage this last weekend, and I was like, you know what? And I called my mom and asked if her husband hunts. I mean, I know he hunts, but if he bow hunted, and she's like, "Oh, he's better with a bow than he is or the rifle." And I was like, "Well, I wonder if he wants my crossbow because I can't really, it can't go with me where I go, and I am never going to use it. I mean, like it's literally never going to do anything but sit around here and gather dust." And I mean, with 350-pound pull, there's this whole freaking contraption that you got to thread around the gun to, or the bow to load it. And I swear to God, oh, I went to dry fire at one time. Or you don't dry fire, but I had to decock it. And I told my wife, "Here, you hold the string," and I stuck a Bic pen up in the slot so that it wasn't a crossbow bolt; it was a Bic pen, because if there's not anything in the slot, it won't release. And so I was trying to decock it. I told her to hold the strings up, right? Not the string, but the cocking mechanism, And so she's got her feet on it, holding the thing, and my dumbass reaches through the crossbow instead of reaching around the back and release the trigger so it would drop the big pin out and then she could let the string down. That's not what happened. It ripped that shit right out of her hands, came down, stuck the big pin into the floor, and I swear to God, I thought it broke my hand. I couldn't move my right hand for probably a week.
I would have thought it would have broken it.
Anyways, I'm going to give that to my my mom's husband for Christmas. So it was like a $1,200, $800 crossbow when I bought it.
Well, Trail Dust said, "How about a catapult?" I don't think siege weapons are actually counted.
Well, then you know what you have to do. Well, then you know what you have to do.
Yeah, I have the space to build a trebuchet or a catapult. I have considered it.
Have it preloaded, aimed at your front stoop, and with a remote trigger mechanism, and be like, knock, knock, knock. Hello, we're here to home invade you. Oh, hi, how you doing? Hi, I'm Adam. Shake their hands, be like, come, like as you said, come on in to home invade me. Push the button, and then they just poof, hit by a rock. Or what about like paintball guns? Because you could set up like paintball turrets.
Yes, I'm pretty sure in
You could be
Australia you're
like,
allowed. Certain parts of Australia you are allowed to own paintball guns. However, they
and you
have to
could
be.
set it up all automatic. You could be like, Alexa,
They
initiate
are.
Red Dawn.
Paintball guns are a subcategory. You do have to have a license for them. They're a subcategory of firearms still, but they're easier
Okay.
to obtain because they're for a recreational purpose.
Uh huh.
Um, so yeah,
Huh.
so
And then
so yeah, we do have paintball competitions here in Darwin um, and they're around Australia. But again, they're a subcategory of firearm because they use compressed air to expel a projectile, so they're still classified as firearm. Um, so yeah, so well, I mean, in Queensland not long ago, you know those you can buy them and they fire the Orbeez, the water
hmm
um, pellet ball things. There was a big uproar in Queensland a few years ago because there was a company selling those, and they didn't quite fit under any. You didn't need a license to buy them at the time because they didn't fit under any specific category under the firearms license in Queensland, and they're now really really difficult to get. But again, or the Federal Firearm Act rehashed it and added those under a specific. They're like paintballs as well, so you're allowed to own them, but they come under a specific license. So
a semi-automatic
Um,
slingshot.
that's interesting because in the U.S. a black powder firearm isn't like I have a friend in one of my groups that had a concealed carry license. It was open carrying, and somebody came at her and like snatched the gun off of her hip, and then like she beat the crap out of him and like shot him in the leg, and she wound up getting charged with assault with a deadly weapon, and like did time for that for grabbing her gun back and shooting that guy. And now she can't own a 9 millimeter. She can own, but she can own an antique black powder pistol because it's not it's considered an antique or something to that effect. I don't know.
yeah, well, I mean, again with the firearms in Australia, black powder, even black powder firearms come under the Firearms Act. They are a different category. I think they're category. So you got A, B, C, and H. H is for like pistols and stuff like that. You can only get H if you have a professional reason to have one, so your police officer, security guard, that type of thing, or you're a member of a club. And you can only have carry or concealed carry if, again, you're a police officer, military, whatever. No civilian can get a concealed carry or anything like that. But I think black powder firearms come from memory, and this is very rough because I don't know off. I believe a category A firearm, and certain ones. So if you bought a replica kit, it would come under, like for example, you had a flintlock pistol, that would kind of come under category C/H. So because it's a brand new firearm, it still needs to have a serial number and all that type of thing, and it's a handgun. So that comes under a C/H. Or if you made one, for example, you'd have to register it and all that type of thing. And it's a really big issue trying to get one registered if you haven't got the right licenses to actually be a gunsmith. But if but there's also like grandfather law. So if you own an actual historical flintlock, for example, or long gun or whatnot, they're classified as grandfathered. That they don't need to have a serial number. However, you still have to have a Category A license to own them, I believe. And even ones that have had their firing pin or whatnot filed off, and you can't physically fire them, you still need to have like a collector's license and all that type of thing. So I mean, there are people that have them in Australia. There's lots of people. I mean, I have some really good friends that own, like, you walk into they've got certain rooms in their houses, like walking into an armory or a firearms museum. They've got them on the walls, and they've got bars on the windows, and they've some beautiful pieces in there. Some of them are absolute artworks, but again, they're part of gun clubs and collectors clubs and firearms, and shooting clubs and all that type of thing. So they have the license to own all them. So yeah, it's different. It's it's definitely different, and it's an odd thing, but it's Australia is one of the safest nations in the world when it comes to gun violence. I mean, things still do happen here. There are still shootings here. Don't get me wrong, but it's yeah.
No, I mean,
It
and that what what Jessica was telling me was like, really, I mean, it's just like here in the States, I mean, especially in Texas, everybody's carrying, and she's like, it's just not necessary. I mean, like she's like, I have no issues. This is like one time, like a month or so ago, somebody like intentionally, just walking through, I don't know where the mall, I think it was in Sydney or something like that, and somebody like almost intentionally did the shoulder bump thing, where you kind of lean in as you walk by someone, and then they muttered some transphobic comment or something like that, and she turned around and said, like, really, and then he said something again, and then in her dude voice was like, you want to go, and then they're like, turned around and went off. She's like 6'1", but but it was like, yeah, it was all fun and games until she's like, oh, you want some? Let's do this. But she says, but that's in like 5 years, that's like one of like twice that's ever happened. Nobody, there's never been an issue. And I was like, oh, I mean, like I wouldn't expect there to be, but it's just one of those things. Like here in the States, it's like, in the last like 5 years, I've always kind of had that safety net hanging off the side of my purse or my belt or whatever, where if somebody is going to put me in danger, I'm going to stop them from doing that. And it's going to be, yeah. And so, I mean, like, yeah. And I'm just like, that's a whole different mindset, I think. You know what I mean?
But I mean, to bring it to blacksmithing, for me, it kind of it's a little bit disappointing in a sense, because I mean, like, for example, we've who was it? There's someone in our community was fully hand forging his own black powder rifle.
Oh, that was Jared. Jared.
Yeah. And so, from a blacksmithing perspective, like that's kind of an avenue that's restricted for me, in the sense of, whilst I would love to do it, I will never be able to do it here in Australia. Yeah, I'd never be able to do it here in Australia unless I got the permits and the licenses.
So that was so cool when he was like forge welding his barrels and then proof testing them and everything. I was like, that's freaking amazing. There's no way I would have the fortitude to do that. I mean, like that test firing and all that. No.
Yeah, but I mean, and whilst I would want and like, again, everyone knows Sam's a friend of mine. I know that we've had a chats about it before, and he would love to be able to attempt that as well. But again, in order to do it here in Australia, we have to go through and get certain licenses and whatnot in order to be able to do that. And I mean, gunsmithing is still there are still gunsmithing here in Australia, and gunsmithing is still a thing. You've just got to have certain licenses and whatnot. And for a quote unquote hobbyist, it's not worth doing. So,
well, no, and especially considering, I mean, like you can just download a CAD file and you can 3D print a gun in like an hour and a half. The whole damn thing. No, not theoretically.
No.
Not theoretically.
No. I'm saying here in Australia, right? Those types of things, we haven't seen them. They're theoretical, right? Here in Australia, I'm not saying they don't exist. All right, I don't know anyone
No,
that.
but my point is the technology exists to
Yes, the
do that,
technology
and
exists. Yes.
anybody with a little bit of could figure out how to do it. I mean, like I could figure out how to do it, but I'm not willing to put the effort into figuring it out. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like I don't need that.
I'm not. Me personally, I'm not also. I'm also not willing to risk the sentence that comes with getting caught with them.
Right. Be like,
Right.
you'd be sitting there, just be like watching a 3D printer go, and it's like 3/4 of the way through printing out a replica 911, and then like,
Yeah, if that happened, yeah, you'd be royally screwed. But yeah, so the different countries, different different ways of doing things. I'm not and I'm not saying any particular ways better than any others, but that's just different countries. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, so I mean
what a week,
that was
or what a
picks and
fortnight.
squirrels. Yeah, picks and
Yeah, I'm
squirrels.
just just watching our alerts come in. Yep, we're demonetized. All right, we're deplatformed. All right, because you're not allowed to say gun on YouTube.
That's why I said firearm. I was trying to.
No,
Anyway.
in the last 45 seconds, the word gun was spoken like 17 times in a row. So,
Oh well. Where did
and
we
unfor-
demonetize this one?
and YouTube is adding automatically added ads today. So, you know,
yeah, because once we got demonetized, they're like, oh, this is all our ad money now.
Yep, that's it.
yeah,
But yeah, so
I just want
year
my
in
30
review,
cents. Year in review, yeah. Yeah, year in review. Happy holidays. It's the end of the year. Real quick, I guess my fortnight, it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we were still on that, haven't worked a lot, but I've been busy as crazy. Fixing plumbing issues at my brother's house. His drain broke, his main drain line to the septic tank broke. So I was like elbow deep in, nastiness.
Is
Yeah. Yeah, Zach standing out by the open septic tank, and I'm shoving stuff through and whatnot to clear clogs. Something plops out. He goes, "What the hell was that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It was yours." So, yeah, some horrible stuff. I'm like, when did you guys have corn? This is all corn and pinto beans.
Did you not learn to chew your peanuts?
So yeah, that was my week, and I've got to get
I
under
thought
the
you were an
crawl space.
electrician.
Yeah, me too. And next weekend after Christmas, I've got to get under the house. I've got to change a couple couplings and a 90, and fix a clean out. It ain't over yet. So I've had a shitty week. End of year stuff. Happy holidays. It is. I mean, it's Halloween, Christmas, and Hanukkah and all that
Yuletide.
fun stuff. Yuletide season. And then we go into the New Year's. So as a brief kind of like end of year recap and end of year discussion on how this past year went. As you remember, last year was all super educational. It was formatted. It was researched. We were professionals about it. We did not have a lot of guests. We had Roy come on to discuss gilding and Gothic ironwork and such as that, and French Baroque ironwork, and had some amazing conversations about the human history of blacksmithing and metalwork. Some amazing episodes. And then we had this year where we kind of switched things up again and had it more casual. We, for all of our sanities, we went to a twice a month every other week schedule, and kept it more casual. What are we going to talk about? Whatever comes up today. It happened to be firearm laws in Australia and all that. And today, rolling in and doing recaps and talking holidays and all that stuff. So, yeah.
And I mean, this year we did start off with some educational stuff. We talked about forges and air and fuel and all that type of stuff because
that's right.
of course, because the book I'm with, and then we had a primer on ambles and all that type of stuff. And of course, we switched format from weekly to the fortnightly, which I think has given us a good amount of break. You guys, we haven't been as stressed, and we've been a lot more. In my opinion, the episodes have kind of flowed a little bit more, organically, and into space with some of Alexis Unhinged during the year, and so that's led to we've also had interesting. We discussed the Master Mia fine. We of course last fortnight we discussed Notre Dame and whatnot, but we've had some interesting discussions this year, which have been a little bit less. I wouldn't say less structured, but a little bit less mind-numbing for some people, particularly hearing me talk all the time.
A little less forced. We're allowed to be a little bit more casual. I blame our producer for the stress previously, but we're a bit more casual now, and I like that. Did we ever cover Bohemian blacksmithing? No, we can talk about Bohemian blacksmithing, at some point, sure, but yeah, it's been quite a year for the show. I'm kind of curious after Alexis tells me, what she thought of the year. I'd also like to read some comments from you, the viewers who have been here with us throughout this entire year, on how you guys took and dealt with our shifting thing. But while they're typing that all out, Ben furiously going, "You fucking suck." Alexis, it's like, how was your year with all this? With the shifting.
Right. So coming the I want to say I mean, like, like it or not, the new format is pretty much my fault. I when I started this endeavor, as far as being a part of this endeavor, almost 5 years ago, almost 4 or 5. I don't remember. It's been a long damn time. I put at first it was just like, I'm gonna kick back on the side, and I'll let Yamas bounce stuff off of me, like the sidekick on a radio show. And then I was like, hey, what if we did a medal of the week or something like that, and that's what started having a structured educational live stream. And we pulled that off for years, but then it got to the point where we had discussed everything we could think about discussing. And I mean, and for the most part, with a few exceptions, the people that are in the stream are the same people that were there then, and so it feels like it feels like a disservice to go to do wrought iron for a third time, and cover the same stuff. And so I thought, honestly, I'm getting wore out with trying to come up with not necessarily a script, but a show outline every week. Be like, all right, we're going to do this, and okay, we got this much time for how was your week? We got this much time for the meat and potatoes. We got this much time for how was your week? I was like, instead of doing this scripted, or not scripted, but orchestrated show, what if because last year the 2 week break we took off for Christmas and New Year's. Oh my God, that was so amazing to have 2 weeks in a row where we didn't have to do a show, and it really kind of opened my mind to the fact that maybe we're kind of putting too much into this, and it's bringing the quality down, and so I decided, as like, let's go to every 2 weeks, and then we were still doing the same kind of formatted thing. And then I kind of thought, hey, what if we just bring this down to like your local radio show mentality, without the stupid pranks and whatever. But I mean, but where it's just we all tune in, we sit here, we have a conversation about whatever comes up on that day. It doesn't have to be like, everything, but I mean, it could be Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, blacksmithing, I mean, like whatever. And kind of play it by ear, because in the past we've actually had some really good episodes that were viewers' choice, and I mean,
Hmm.
like, I honestly thought those ones were really good. Like when we did like Carbon, I think it was Carbon. I think that was the one where it was like, oh shit, I didn't think of that, and then so like you're yakking and I'm doing research and I'm like, oh, I got all this stuff, a diamond tip or a monomolecular diamond tip blade, this, that, and the other. And like we went down these rabbit holes and all of it was improv, you know what I mean? Like just off the cuff. And I think for the most part, our interaction with each other has improved, because it's more like we get on here, and instead of getting on here 2 hours before the show and telling each other what we're going to say, now we get on and kind of try to we talk about stuff we're not going to talk about on the show, and then save the stuff we're going to talk about on the show for, like when I tell my story, this is the first time Yamez and Adam heard it, and I think that makes for a better reaction and show,
Yeah.
and honest, like if somebody's got a question, you can ask it, because if you've already asked that 45 minutes ago, you're not going to ask it again because you already know the answer. You know what I mean? So I personally like the new format. I think it works well. The every 2 weeks thing is, honestly, when we were doing a structured format, going to every 2 weeks, I think was necessary, because it was draining me to the point where I hated having to get on to do this show. Not that I hated, like, once I'm in,
It's
but it's everything leading up to going live is just, it's a chore,
it
and
became a job.
it became a job, and I dreaded it. And now I actually look forward to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's less about the 2 weeks, and more about the structure that we have now, where it's just free form. And I think we could do what we could do. I mean, I could do, maybe not, but I could do every week. But then, we lose part of the dynamic, because, one of the other reasons that we went to every 2 weeks is because that's all Adam is available. Adam's available once per fortnight, and we interact better as a trio than we do as a duo.
Not that we're not all
And so
friends
that
who
was,
can't talk. Not that we're
no,
not all
no,
friends and
but
can't talk with each other. But yeah, no, it's that
no,
three, the trio, the comedy rule of three takes. The trifecta.
between the three of us, one of us always has a direction. And there have been weeks when it was just me and Yamez, and neither one of us could come up with a damn thing, and we're just like, I don't fucking know, I'm so tired, I mean, like we both both worked an insane week, and we're like, can we just cancel this week or something,
And I actually think we did once.
Yeah, we did. And I think, and going to the every 2 weeks so that all three of us could be here for every show, I think was the way to go. That really helped as far as our dynamic. And I also personally prefer the unstructured atmosphere, with the also with the removal of the language with restraint. You know what I mean? Like I got to talk like I talk within reason. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be excessive like Adam, but that's all I got.
I saw someone mention Tim earlier. I think it was Ben. What would Tim do? And to be fair, we've now run this show for longer than Tim did. I mean, it is. It started out as kind of like a forward side chat with Tim and whatnot, and it got handed on to Yamez. And I come on board very soon after that, and then Alexis was also part of it around that same time of the transition, and we've done this show now for longer than Tim did. It is, sure, Tim was the originator, and he's, and I'm forever going to be a fan of Tim and whatnot. But I mean, he's retiring and whatnot. Kind of dropped off the face of the planet. I haven't seen or heard of Tim for a while. but that's life. People come and go. I mean, and there's a lot of creators. I mean, and I'm kind of one of them in the sense of I haven't put anything on my channel for quite a while, apart from live streams. And people do that. They come in, they come out, they drop on, they drop off. And where I'm thankful to have people like Roy, for example. Roy. See if we can summon him.
We are the
fuck.
second longest running Blacksmiths live stream. Second to Roy.
Yep. And of course,
in
numbers
of live streams, this channel actually has more than Roy.
Yeah, and I believe we're also one of the longer running podcasts for blacksmithing, even as well. I mean, even though YouTube's our main media. Yeah, but apart from, I believe, Sam's one.
Yeah, is
he.
What is that? Not barroom.
Forge chat.
Huh?
It's the Forge chat, isn't it?
Yeah, Sam's is the Forge chat.
The one with
I'd like.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out though that I did kind of stop the podcast when we went to the freeform format, just because. Well, in addition to hating editing, I didn't feel like the content was worthy of uploading. And I felt like maybe if I uploaded that, because I mean the podcast is called the Impractical Blacksmiths podcast. But then, there are some weeks you turn in and we never even tune in. We never even mention blacksmithing. It's all about something else, or the weather or mental health or something like that. And I have just, I mean, like, I'm a year behind. I'm a year behind. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like,
it would be not really worth it to do it. It would be not worth the bandwidth, the download, the time,
No. And so I kind of put a pin in that. For all intents and purposes, the place where you can find the Impractical Blacksmith podcast is on YouTube. Like lots of others, they do a YouTube stream or a YouTube show, and then they upload it everywhere else as an audio only. And I know Kevin really likes to listen to us in the car on audio, and it's like, but
if
you were here already.
Yeah,
and you can still. I listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube in the car. I just I have it through Bluetooth, and I just don't watch the video. I listen to a lot of audiobooks that way. So you can still do it. It's not a thing.
Well, and honestly, the point when I started the Spotify and Amazon and Google and all that, the reason I started those was because of data limits. I mean, like, you could download an episode of audio, which is like, I don't know, like 1.3 megabytes, which is nothing compared to 375 megabytes if it's video, and so like the point was it would compress the data so you could listen to it on your phone and not run out of data. And but like I said, at this point it's diminishing returns. Kevin is the only one that listens to the podcast, so I mean, like,
Kevin, I put up the link to. I put up the link to another podcast that you can listen to.
But yeah, no. Speaking of though, Jack's.
We're in an ad. We're in an ad right now.
Oh, okay.
Or we're in an ad 15 seconds ago. I don't know which one it is.
Or we're in it.
I don't get ads,
in an ad that's just for you.
Well, they all be at the same time.
Are they? I don't know. I have no way to control it.
When I look down and somebody's like, "Oh, I got a Harbor Freight ad," I'm looking at the same Harbor Freight ad.
Yep. So to cover what we're going to say, reading some of the comments, Jack says, my 2 cents is that I identify with the need not to feel like building this community is work. However, I do miss the structure. I'm struggling myself to strike a balance. And Ben said, I did like that being the structure, but gets the, make it a little bit more free form. Terrain said, talking raw iron for the 28th time. Exactly. And that's the thing, there's a lot of stuff in this, and I mean, Roy's a perfect example of that. There's a lot of stuff that can be covered, but can only really be covered either through demonstration or by working side by side. There's a lot of nuances that we can discuss, but it's better to be discussed whilst actively working. There's only so much you can actually talk about in this sort of format. Talking theory. You've got to be able to see or demonstrate what we're talking about. So doing it in this sort of format is difficult. But on that same note, I like this format for discussing things like we did last fortnight, discussing the ironwork of Notre Dame, discussing discoveries, discussing, new techniques, discussing stuff like quad state. I'd really love to find someone that's been to, I think it's the Ukrainian or Czech Republic, like big blacksmithing competition. I've seen stuff on they have a big blacksmith meet in Europe, and they have the major forging competitions with teams of smiths from all around Europe and the world. I'd really love to talk to someone who's been to that and get their perspective on it, because from the stuff I've read, it's another one of those absolutely awesome lifetime memory building things, and I don't even think your friend Daniel Moss has been to that. I'm not 100% sure. I was trying to remember the nickname you gave him, the Yummers, but it escaped me for a minute.
Danley Moose.
But Danley Moose, that's it.
Moose.
Yeah. And so I love Plague Bringer. Yeah, so I'd love to be able to talk to someone that's actually been to that. And again, I'd love to get and I did try this year to get a couple more guests on, but unfortunately the stars didn't align properly. I don't know if many of you guys watch him, but there's a YouTuber, an archaeologist called Milo, that I watch, and I wanted to get him on to discuss some archaeological and historical stuff. And also thumb the nose at Yamas a bit with the whole Atlantis and all that type of thing, because he's really...
I'm sorry, you're breaking up there.
Misinformation. But yeah, so I don't know if I'm actually breaking up or not. This is getting a little bit jittery for me. But yeah, so I tried to get a few. And then there's I forget his name off the top of my head. I follow him on Instagram. There's an Irish blacksmith. Actually, I believe he's Cornish, but he's moved to Ireland. In a 270-year-old Irish forge that he's restoring and does his work. He does a lot of jewelry and stuff like that. I've actually jumped on his live streams a couple of times and had a chat to him. And he's.
Are you talking about Seth Sawforge?
Yeah. Yes, I am. And I've jumped on his live streams a couple of times. I've really tried to get him. I'd love to have him on the show as well, because particularly that history, the history of his workshop is something that I just don't have here. It's not something that exists here in Australia. And if I start talking about history in reference to my area, it's something that I wouldn't say is uninteresting to many people around the world, but I find it fascinating, but it's not really relevant to a lot of people around the world. Like, for example, I'm start of next year. I'm looking at trying to do a forging session at one of the original forges that was set up when Darwin itself was first founded, which was in the 1870s. However, a lot of people around Australia, and I definitely know a lot of people around the world, don't realise that Darwin had, or the Northern Territory had, a blacksmith shop before Brisbane and Perth, and some of the major cities in Australia before they were founded. Darwin actually had a small convict settlement in 1824. So a lot of people don't realize that, but also a lot of people aren't interested in that. So I can talk history and all that type of thing until the cows come home because it's a passion of mine. But there's that interest versus relevance type thing as well. So talking to someone like Saul Forged about his 270-year-old shop, that's both interesting and relevant, and how I wouldn't say he's modernizing it, but how he's using it in the modern day is also very interesting. And also finding out, the steps he's taking to restore it, how it's being taken in his community and all that type of thing, because that might just be the impetus for someone else that might come across us to do, step into the craft and do it in their region as well. A lot of Europe, it doesn't seem like that, but a couple of 100 years is still a long time. And there's a lot of places around the world that have existed, that have been around for a couple of 100 years. So, finding a local shop or setting up a shop on a place that once existed is just as interesting to me.
Yeah.
Comment. Yeah, there was Ben had Ben's last comment and my response. I didn't want to elaborate on that, but I would leave that up to you if you wanted to, or just leave it alone.
Danley Moose one?
No, the other one, the next one.
I don't know who that is.
Rory?
It's a typo. Rory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be Rory.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, if you want to do it, I wasn't going to type into the chat why we wouldn't have him on, and I was just going to let it go. But if you wanted to expand on it, you could. But otherwise,
it ain't a big deal. That's there's
no.
more. It'd be more Moose than. I ain't saying nothing about nobody on there right now. Let's just say I'm not the most popular person.
We had early on in this endeavor, we had interactions with other people that did not go favorably. Various people, not just one person, but various other streamers that were subbing in and out, had a certain air of arrogance and entitlement, and it really didn't come across well. So
yeah,
and there's a certain person that made a bunch of hammers out of 52-100 ball bearings, and having to buy all those hammers back shut him the F up.
On that note, though, and that's actually something, bringing back to what we discussed in the pre-stream. One thing I've really been passionate about, and I know a lot of people in this community are as well, especially Grandad, especially Rob Grandad. I know he's massive on it because he was one of my first subscribers. But encouraging and supporting those that are new to the craft. Now, as I said, I've been crook this week, so I've been doom scrolling on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook, and not TikTok, but YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And the other day, I actually came across a gentleman, an Australian guy, that and it was random, was just come up on as I was doom scrolling YouTube And this guy is a larger channel in the sense that he has about 8,000 subscribers, but he was like just a vlogger or a blogger. He did a lot of reaction videos and whatnot. He's had a channel for a fair amount of time, but he's literally just started up blacksmithing. He's got like I wouldn't say Harbor Freight, but like one of them cheap ass anvils, and gas forge, and to the point that like he doesn't even know the terminology of drawing out and all the terminology that we use in our regular lexicon here as blacksmiths. So I happened upon his stream and I jumped in. It was about 3/4 of the way through when I actually joined, and as someone that I can say I'm relatively experienced smith now, having done it for a long time, you guys kind of give me a little bit more of a bump up than I would otherwise probably give myself. But supporting those new smiths and educating them and providing support that
the same support that we had in the beginning.
Yeah, but also that some other communities or some parts of our community don't provide online. We all have had experiences with gatekeepers, and you're not a real smith if you XYZ
post on
or
YouTube.
Don't XYZ. Yeah, or you don't do it, in this way or whatnot. If you use an electro welder as opposed to just forge welding, you're not a real smith. All that type of baloney. So I got on there, gave him advice, and subscribed to him. And said I subscribe to you because you're a new smith, and I believe in supporting new smiths. So not that we don't generally find many posting videos, but he started posting videos for pretty much the exact same reason that Yama started posting videos for friends and family. And like I said, he still had a fair amount of subscribers, being 8,000, but doing that for his subscribers just to show them what he was doing, and he said during his stream, there's an innate thing in human nature that we want to make things, be that making dinner from scratch, or making bread, or making a stove top, or a bench top, or there's an innate human drive of making art. There's an innate human drive to make things, to create things for yourself, and he stumbled across blacksmithing, and he's loving it, and he's been like, some of the things he's making, he was like, when I'll come across him, he was trying to finish off Christmas gifts and stuff like that for friends and family. And for someone that's relatively new to it, he's got some natural talent, but it's that supporting people as you go, that for me, I've always kind of been an educator, in the sense of, I might not be the greatest, the old saying of those that can't do teach. I might not be the greatest doer, but I can explain a concept or encourage a person to bring out their fuller potential, and that's what I like to be. I can see you want to say something, Alexis. Go ahead.
No. I'm gonna save it for final thoughts. But if I don't mention something right now, I'm gonna be like, I have no idea what I was gonna say. So when I say that, it's my grandparents. Continue.
Okay. Maybe you should write it down so you don't forget. Anyway, so I like to think myself as an educator, which is kind of the reason why I got into, I wanted to update the practical blacksmithing, because I found it confusing, and I'm a relatively scholastic person. I can learn a lot from reading. A lot of people don't learn like that, and I understand it. And when I read the original Practical Blacksmithing, I found it confusing as heck, because it jumped all over the place. It was like, why is this, organized the way? And in reading it, I understood why it was organized the way it was, because it was, originally 4 different volumes, et cetera, et cetera. Yammers, you stuck your hand up. Did you want to say something?
No, I was. You said people learn by doing. That's me. I can't
Yeah.
learn by book.
Yeah.
If it's a physical thing, I
But-
can't learn it by book.
But you know, again, like I said, I'm a relatively scholastic learner, but in reading original Practical Blacksmithing, it was really confusing to me how it jumped back and forth. So you know, I was like, well, I know that some people can at least use it as a reference, but if it jumps around the way it does, you know, they'll read a bit or they'll find a section on one thing and they'll go, oh, that's really useful. But then there won't be a follow-up section, you know. For example, making tongs, I'll go, okay, here's one way to make tongs. And then, you know, 10, 15, 20 pages later, there's another way to make tongs. And like, you know, that second way might have been more useful for them. And then reading and finding it at a later date going, well, this would have been, you know, why the hell is it down here? This would have been better off to know, you know, 12 months ago when I first came across it. And that's kind of what I thought, well, I wanted to reorganize it to help the education in the community to make that book more useful. And then, of course, that led me down the rabbit hole to all the information I have access to now, which is why I started my own book, because it was kind of like, well, I have access to all this information because I am a scholastic person, because I am a researcher, because I like to go down rabbit holes and find as much information about something as I can possibly contain. So if I have all this information because I'm like that, most people, like Yamaz, he would never come across the information that I have unless he has a specific bee in his bonnet about finding X bit of information. He would never
Like the
look for
Haberman
it
bench.
because, yeah, but you would never look for it because it's not, you know, it's not a pressing need for you. But if you had access to that sort of information in an easy format that you could get a hold of, rather than what I've done and gone deep down into rabbit holes, you know, you wouldn't have access to that information. And I wanted to make that information that, you know, people say, and I've said it many times. I haven't said this phrase many times, but I've said the counterance many times, that blacksmithing is a dying art, and it's not. It's just that we haven't had the dissemination of information that other, you know, trades or passions have had. And I'm trying to find and gather all of that information that I can, you know, that has been put down, to get back out into the community to go, hey, we've still got all this information. You don't have to go digging for it anymore, you know, and make it nice and easy and accessible to everyone. Because that's why we've lost, you know, for better or worse, for a long time, blacksmithing, and I've still come across it to this day. And it's part of the reason why I had to strike out on my own and learn my own way, because, you know, there is a nationally renowned blacksmith, blacksmith, for lack of a better term, here in my city in Darwin. And when I was, you know, 17, 18, after I come into town for high school, I wanted to go and sweep his shop and basically work for him for free. And he was a rude, arrogant so-and-so, and basically, you know, told me to screw off. And for me, having come from someone that was willing to teach me, and you know, Reg, my former teacher, that had shared a lot of information with me, coming across that, it was that attitude that was kind of like, well, that's the reason why we've lost so much information, because there were a lot of people back in the past, not as many today, but there were a lot of people back in the past that were kind of like, this is a trade secret, and kept all that information to themselves, which means that there's a lot of techniques that may be more effective that have been lost because that information was held on, you know, or you know, that information wasn't able to be passed on. So the more information I can get and put down on paper, in a book or whatnot, that I can get out there into the world, you know, the internet, for lack of a better term, now the internet is forever. So, you know, if I upload something online, hopefully one day it'll get put, it's in the archives and it'll be there forever. You know, you wanted to say, Alexis?
Yes, I do. And I find what you're doing to be so freaking awesome and commendable because the internet is not forever. But if you can get it into print,
Mm,
it almost is
mm,
because it only takes one coronal mass ejection to wipe out every electronic device on the planet. I mean,
yeah,
like there's everything, nothing electric works that was turned on when it happened. Like
mm,
so now we have to start from scratch. So like all of those servers and databases that I mean, Amazon owns like 80% of the internet, and so like those all get wiped out. So by putting it in a book and having it on print where somebody can just reach over and go, oh, here it is
yeah,
right here,
yeah,
that is a commendable endeavor. It really is because I mean, like, whereas like okay, in our circle of people, Roy and
Yes.
Roy and
Uh,
John are like at the pinnacle of YouTube teaching blacksmithing, right? If you want to know how to do something, one of them has a video on it,
yeah,
probably both of them, right?
mm,
And I do enjoy the YouTube medium because it is a visual medium, and I can see, oh, okay, rather than being described in a book, it it's really difficult to envision what's going on written in a book versus seeing it actually happen on YouTube, which is not even as good as seeing it in person. I mean, seeing it in person is sometimes like you're like, that is not what I thought I saw on the internet, you know?
yeah,
But at the very basic level, putting it in book form um, means it's going to endure, even in the event of a worst case scenario of our electronics. And I was going somewhere else with that, and I don't remember where it was, but I'm just going to end it there. But because you're putting it in print, I admire that, and thank you. As a person that enjoys. Oh, I know what it was. The old guard, like not sharing their secrets and not wanting to pass down information. Roy has experienced such a similar situation because Abana and the people that are his in actual blacksmithing, the people that are his quality contemporaries. Um, don't consider him to be a contemporary because he's just a YouTube blacksmith. He's
yeah.
no blacksmith. He's a YouTube blacksmith, and I think that's a disservice to not only the craft. It's a disservice to humanity. I mean, like Roy's really fucking good. I
mm,
mean, like meticulously, like amazing, especially in person. Watching him do something in person, you're just like, the fuck.
mm,
I mean, like it's mind blowing. And,
mm,
much like when he would watch like Mark Asprey or something like that. I mean, like he has the same effect on us as Mark Asprey had on him. And Mark Asprey doesn't perceive Roy to be his equal. And I'm assuming that could be completely
yeah,
incorrect. Not necessarily Mark Asprey, but Mark Asprey's contemporaries. I don't know about that one individual, but by and large, so I've heard. Roy is not really liked by the old guard because he freely just shares information on the internet, so they don't have to come pay and take a class.
mm. And look, there's and the same type of thing kind of exists. And look, I because to caveat what I'm about to say, I see us blacksmithing YouTubers, especially someone like Roy, in the same light as I see scientific educators on YouTube. Okay, like Milo, for example, and there are a whole heap of them that I follow, whether it be archaeology, chemistry, geology, whatnot, right? Even to a certain degree, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? They're scientific educators, right? I see YouTube blacksmith, established YouTube blacksmiths, John, Roy, Alex Steele. They're the decent list of them that are we're blacksmithing educators. And for better or worse, whether you like them all or not, not every one of those educators is for everyone, but we are educators, okay? And I support 100% what you were saying there, Alexis. In person to person, in person is the best way to get this knowledge and experience. YouTube and video format is the second best way. Okay. And the third best way, in my opinion, is books. But not everyone has access, and not everyone has access to person. And I know that from personal experience. I don't have access to person. So my next best avenue, of course, was YouTube. But where I live and where I have lived, YouTube isn't also always an option. You know, the internet is becoming more widespread across the globe now, but there are still places in the world, and even there are many places here in Australia where internet and reliable internet isn't a thing. So books are, you know, again, they're the third best option, but they're still a good option for education. It's the reason why we still use books in school. You know, like even though technology is becoming more integrated into education, into schooling, you know, books are still a fundamental thing. And so that's the reason why, you know, I want this information in book format, so that, you know, you're out in your workshop and you don't have access to your internet, or, you know, Joe Blow has lost it, you know, if he's lost his phone, or, you know, haven't been able to pay his bill. And, you know, we all know people that may be down on their luck and they're relying on, you know, working for themselves or doing something in order to put food on the table. You know, sometimes they don't have the money to pay their phone bill, so therefore they don't have access to the internet. If they have this book, they might be able to do something. Or they had access to books, they might be able to do something, you know. Or if they can go down their library and scan a couple of pages, you know, if this book is in their library and they can scan a couple of pages, they have access to that information to be able to do something. And that's kind of what, you know, motivates me. You know, I want to keep this information, and the reason why I would do it for free if, you know, again, making a little bit of money for me to put food on the table wasn't a kind of a necessity as well, you know. But, you know, all of us, you know, Roy is a perfect example. All of his videos are free. You know, that information is there for anyone to have access to. He makes money from YouTube and his business and other avenues as well. But, you know, it's that's information there for free. And my book, you know, I want to keep. I'm trying to pack as much information into this book as possible, and keep it relatively affordable, so that it is, it's an investment, but it's an affordable investment. You know, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. But yeah. And I'm getting there. I mean, you know, it's slowly catchy monkey.
Like everybody's saying, what you're doing is commendable. It truly is. And the fact that you've made a few sales, and you know, I don't know your numbers, but you know, that I know of, because I know that your book is a print by order. A print by order. So the fact that people have ordered it, or you have ordered it and give it as gifts, that book is out there physically now. So very cool.
Yep. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Alexis has all four. You know,
I don't yet.
No, but the four, the I kind of, the even on the Jungle website, Amazon, I kind of rearranged it so that the primary one, which is the complete Practical Blacksmith, is the one at the top of the list, because, you know, that's got all four in it. And I about 6 months ago, I actually went back through and redid the pricing for it. I think it's $40 US, because the original Practical Blacksmithing, there were people selling it for like $42 on Amazon, and it was kind of like, I wanted to make my version competitive so that people didn't get confused, but also so they had the most modern, up to date one. You know, it's great, and I own the original one. You know, and I still love it. I haven't opened it in forever because I got my one now, but it's I still have it because it's an ode to the past. But I want that information to be out there. Better information being out there than being hoarded away. And that's why I did it.
And that's and Jack's not going on today, so we're open ended, but so there's no rush here. But I wanted to yeah, exactly. You're gonna have to ride this out, Popo.
I will say I have to edit probably 6 hours of audio today to get out by
Don't
Wednesday.
care, don't care, don't care. You don't got to do. You're gonna take a nap. That's what you're gonna do. So no. But I was gonna say no. A lot of the information, like when I bought Practical Blacksmith, the original Practical Blacksmithing, I sat down and like read it cover to 3/4 of the way to the back. I made it 3/4 of the way through before I was like, I can't do this, and a lot of it was the terminology, because the terminology is in language that is no longer in use, and that makes things difficult. I mean, so something people don't take into account is language evolves over time. Um, Something that I don't know if it's true, but I've heard is that like back in the colonial days, English was closer to the English we speak here today than the accented English that is spoken in Britain today. That much like the Americas developed regional accents, Britain developed its accent after that colonization. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, because there's no recordings from back then. You know what I mean? It's all written word. And a good point of this is reading like Thomas Jefferson's letters or things like that. I mean, like by today's standards, they're barely discernible,
Yeah.
legible. I mean, like because they use words that really no. I mean, they exist, but they don't exist in modern language, and so it's difficult to understand, and you have to actually, you can't just pass over a word you don't know and then think, oh, it must mean this, without looking it up and going, because it could be something completely different. Anyways, point
Yeah.
being, language changes over time and rather quickly. I mean, like, how many people in this chat know what skibbity means? I mean, like, who? I mean, and
All
that
all I know is the
brings me to
skibbity. All I know is the skibbity fanfics that I write.
You got some Skibbity Ohio Riz, come on. But my point was,
No
is
diggity.
like Adam went through the Practical Blacksmithing and brought the language into a modern terminology. Now that is going to endure for probably a century. Like those books will be legible and understandable for probably about a century, and 100 years from now somebody else is going to have to do the same thing, and it's going to say Practical Blacksmithing annotated Richardson Flewell Smith Jones, or something like that, because the terminology is going to have to be updated. And that's just, and that is the nature of books. And I mean, like, on a personal note, as someone that understands the evolution of language, I thank you very much for the effort you put into Practical Blacksmithing, because it is so much more understandable after you've gone through it and rearranged it into a coherent pattern, and update it, or explain what the terminology was and what it means today.
And I mean, another point of that is a lot of people don't realize that the English language, like American English versus British English, has only been codified for about 130 odd years in the way that things are spelt. The American English uses phonetic spelling, British English not so much, but even then, like there were 7 different ways of spelling different words. And again, coming back to Jefferson's letters and stuff like that, if you attempt to read them, you literally have to read them out loud. And a lot of old books and stuff like that, you have to read out loud in order to get the syntax and the context of what they were saying, because written on paper, it is spelled so differently to what we expect nowadays. So being able to, and that's not including lost terminology, or terminology that has changed. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but one of the things I experienced in practical blacksmithing was particularly a lot of the chemicals or a lot of chemicals or scientific phrases that they were using were well known and correct for the time, but that notation has changed so much that science has been standardized and codified in the last 120 odd years, 130 odd years, that the words that were used then are different to what is used now. Or they're similar, but they were used for something different back then. So, mercury has always been mercury because that's been from the Roman times. Gold has been gold or aurum or argentum for silver and all that type of thing. But, even like, for example,
Gold is aurum.
Yeah, aurum and argentum for silver. But what I'm saying is like even we use hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid now. They had different terms for those 120 odd years ago, and in niche things, for example, in gold mining, there might still be a term for sulfuric acid, which is very similar to whatnot. But in general lexicon now, we'll use sulfuric acid, not this specific phrase that was used or whatever it was. And I'm just using that as off the top of my head because I'm vaguely remember that might have been one of them. But and a good example is blue vitriol. Most people would have no idea what blue vitriol is now, and I had to do a deep dive to find. Well, it's like, what the hell is blue vitriol? Because I didn't know, and that was, I think, and that was one of the things I had to go and find. And once I found it, it was like, because again, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was one of those things that was like, this is the new and current, what it is. But blue vitriol was something that they knew what it was 150 years ago. We don't know what it is now. You were going to say, Alexis?
I was going to say the sulfuric acid isn't used in gold mining. It's hydrochloric and nitric.
Copper sulfate.
Shut the fuck up. The specific for extracting gold is aqua regia. That's what they called it all the way back to the Spaniard. Aqua regia, royal acid or royal water, and it was 3 parts hydrochloric acid to 3 parts nitric acid to 5 parts hydrochloric acid, and that's the only acid. That's the only combination of acid that will dissolve gold. And I have my share of hydrochloric and nitric, and I've got various metals dissolved in them, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with them because I can't ship them. I got like $1,000 worth of platinum dissolved in muriatic acid, and I have neither the time nor the energy to extract it. But whatever. There was a somebody mentioned that Southern English is like closer to the like original. That's not my understanding. Because like the way that like British singers or Australian singers, when they sing with an American accentless accent, like just there's no like Brooklyn drawl, there's no New York drawl, there's no Southern drawl, there's no California drawl. Or not drawl. California's got an affect, but in when English speakers of other countries they sing with no accent, unless they sing with the accent on purpose, and that most closely resembles unaccented American English, and that's why I think historians think that the old English language, which in TV and these days is represented as British English, is what our language actually was a few hundred years ago. But like I said, without recording devices back then, we don't really know. It's all just kind of a guess. And there's no way to really tell for sure because nobody 300 years ago wrote on a scroll, "See y'all later. We gonna go down to the Piggly Wiggly, and we gonna get some coal." I don't know. I'm
And
being stupid, but
I mean,
nobody
look,
wrote in accent back then. And like I when I type with my accent. So when you read what I'm typing, you hear my voice with my accent. And a lot of people I know do that. Especially Australians, throwing mate on the end of everything, and you can't help but read it with an Australian accent. I don't
see,
know.
see, my internal voice is Australian, right? So when I read comments, unless there is like a trigger word like mate for example, unless there is a common trigger word, a good one that is howdy, right? If I see howdy in a comment or whatnot, then I hear it with an American accent. But if I don't see a trigger word, even though I know, for example, most of our commenters are in the US, right? And I've heard some of their voices, I still hear it in Australian accent. Right, I still read it in an Australian accent in here.
And that's weird. So like a word that I use all the time is y'all. Now, and because me and you converse on a regular basis, I assume when you read what I've written, you read it in my
Yes,
voice,
yes,
right?
but you're a kind of a different example because we do communicate on a regular basis. So your comments, I do read, I do hear your voice, and Yamez's comments, I do hear in Yamez's voice,
Right.
right? But for example, Trail Dust, right now, I know Trail Dust. Kevin is someone that's on that I hear semi regularly, but I don't hear as much as you guys. I consider Kevin a friend, but not a close friend like you and Yamez, right? So, like Troutdust comment, yeah, I'm an old guy. That terminology is easily understood. In here, that even though I know Kevin is in the US, that it's not. I'm an old guy. That terminology is easily understood. I don't hear it with an American twang. I hear it in Australian.
Right.
Yeah.
And because until you're intimate with that person's voice, you hear it in your own dialect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And me as a person that's lived all over the world, I tend to not have a specific dialect, but kind of a combination of everywhere I've been. And it makes it kind of difficult for me because like most of my life has been spent in Texas, and I don't have a Texas accent, or at least I don't think I do. I mean, like
Uh,
not my kids. My kids and my grandkids are like whoa, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are Texas specific words that I use all the time, like y'all, but I don't say y'all. That's the way a Texan says y'all. I say y'all,
yeah.
but a Texan says y'all.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a difference there,
Yeah.
and so, but because I've lived in Germany, I've spent time in Italy, France, Wyoming, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona. I've lived all over the world. Um, well, all over the northern hemisphere, and and because of that, I while I can adapt an accent in the place that I'm at, if I move from that place, I lose it. and I don't even realize I'm doing it. So like if I came to Australia, within a month or two, I would be saying words with the Australian accent, even though I'm not Australian, and people might find that offensive, and like I'm trying to make fun of them or something like that, because I've encountered that before, where people are like, are you fucking socially, culturally appropriating my terminology? I'm like, I it no, I'm sorry, it just happened.
Yeah.
And so I worry about that, but at the same time, it's just like I can't. It's not something I control. It's just something that happens as I adjust to my environment.
And I mean, here's an interesting thing as well. Like a lot of comments saying, I do my best not to type with an accent and all that type of thing. Is you don't have an accent where you are. In Australia, I don't have an accent. I'm Australian. I don't have an accent. It's only
Yes,
when
you
I am
do.
either interacting with it's only when I'm either interacting with people from other parts of the world, or I'm in a different country and speaking. If I go to England and I'm speaking English, then I have an accent. If I learnt Chinese and went to China and learnt and was speaking Chinese with the way I physically produce words, then I would have an accent. You hear, and a great example is I work with a lot of Indian people, and they're speaking English with an Indian accent because that's the way that they have learned to produce sound. It's you only have an accent when you're either speaking a different language or you are somewhere else. Somewhere away from you. It's in your place of being. It's not an accent. It's just the way you speak. you know.
And it also okay, so just taking English for an example, because English is spoken everywhere.
Yeah.
Not necessarily by everyone, but I mean it is spoken everywhere. It is like the universal language. Um, and so, but in each country or each region, not necessarily even country, but region of the world, because of the way their language exists, when they learn English, it has a certain afflection to it.
Yeah.
Or is it a afflection? Affection. AFFECT. Affection. Anyways, and so when an Asian speaks in English versus a Russian speaking in English, or a German speaking in English, or a South American that speaks Portuguese speaking in English, or an Australian. And I mean, like, we're all saying the same words, but there's a certain inflection that is added by our own in our own location that identifies us as this region of person. You know what I mean? And and most times it's fairly accurate. I mean, like, okay, you could hear somebody from Ukraine and somebody from Russia as an American speaking in English, and I wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the two because their inflection to English would be about the same. But it's going to be completely different from someone saying the exact same sentence that was from Vietnam.
Yeah. Yep.
And boy, this fucking string went right off the rails.
and that's true, and that's the reason why I said, like, where you are, you don't have an accent. I mean, like, I posted a comment, like I can't. A lot of people can't do an Australian accent, and me as an Australian listening to people try and do an Australian accent hurts. It's cringeworthy. The first time I ever heard it, and most people have in the English speaking world have watched this movie, but Point Break, right? And hearing American actors do an Australian accent in Point Break was like hearing nails on a chalkboard. It was like, that you know, the only the best person I've heard do an Australian accent, which was passable, is Josh Brown, from First Degree Forge. He does a great Australian accent, right?
Hugh
And it was like,
Jackman does a good Australian accent.
That's because he's Australian.
No.
Is Andrew Lincoln Australian?
Who the fuck is Andrew Lincoln?
He's the guy that made
Uh,
Lincoln Logs.
No, Andrew Lincoln was
Are-
Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead.
Let me just have a quick. I am not sure.
Because Rick
No, he's
Grimes
not.
did
He's not. No, he's
'cause
British.
he has an English / Australian accent, and he speak like his character for 10 years spoke like he was from Alabama or Atlanta the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, he mastered that accent. It was really good.
Yeah.
So where's he from?
He's from England.
Oh, okay. He's English. Okay.
There is a show at the moment where the main character is Australian. I can't remember which one it is. He's got long hair. Freaking hell! What's the show? I'm just trying to find it. And I didn't know he was Australian until only a couple of weeks ago.
Jack.
Agreed, Jack. Y'all is a
Foster's.
very acceptable, culturally appropriated word because y'all can apply anywhere in the world. It's just a contraction of you all.
Yeah.
And while it might have originated in my neck of the woods, I mean, at this point in time, it's kind of used all over the place. Not everywhere, but all over the place. So you are more than welcome to culturally appropriate y'all and not have to pretend to be Texan to do it. So y'all come on over here.
Yeah. So Travis Fimmel from Vikings. He plays Ragnar.
Don't wait, hold up. Look, like I haven't seen the last season of Vikings yet, so don't throw up any spoilers. But
But
I've been hesitant since at the middle of the second spring fling when Hans went, well, you know that scene when Ragnar died? No.
So Ragnar, the actor that plays Ragnar, he's Aussie,
Okay.
right? So's you guys have seen The Mentalist.
Mentalist.
Yeah. Simon Baker, the actor that plays The Mentalist, he's Australian. So, you know, there are a lot of actors that, you know, get rid of their accent, you know, but listen, like, but there's also like I said, Point Break was the first time I come across American actors doing an Australian accent, and it was like,
you know what I think is funny is the way the English accent permeates film and television. Like
there's a reason for that.
Watching The Great, right? Watching The Great,
Uh-huh.
which is turn of the century Russia. Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, yada yada yada. And in the show, they all speak with an English accent, and it's like that's so period incorrect and inconceivable that it's laughable, but it's also very soothing to watch it in that accent, rather than a harsh Russian accent, and I find that to be a fascinating reflection of the way people will take a presentation in one form versus another.
Yeah, I also find the Atlantic accent from the golden age of cinema, the 50s, 60s, 70s, the 40, 50, 60s, amazing as well, because that was a deliberate mixing of British and American in order to create and for those people that might not know what the Atlantic accent, think of the classical radio announcer's accent.
Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, that is the Atlantic accent, the received Atlantic accent. It's a fake accent. It was made up for movie stars so that the British could and both British and American audiences could appeal to both audiences without being too jarring.
Yep.
And I find that, the Mid-Atlantic accent, I find that fascinating. You know, it is a completely made up and completely taught accent, but there's also people out there that still speak it. And I also find that the cultivated Australian accent. So if you think about Kate Blanchett, for example, Kate Blanchett's accent, which is officially called a cultivated Australian accent, is very Mid-Atlantic. And particularly because she spent so much time in the US, but even prior to that, she still has a very cultivated, very very Mid-Atlantic accent. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Newcastle. Yeah, Jack. Newcasters did train for the Mid-Atlantic accent, and again, that was particularly, Second World War era type thing. That was the news was broadcast worldwide. And that way, it was for all audiences. Yeah, I don't know why they called it the Atlantic. You would think Pacific would make more sense, but yeah, for whatever reason, Atlantic was the one that was chosen.
So the show has gone so off. We are an off 4-wheel drive off-road train. Like an army of squirrels has knocked at our door.
Okay, but here's the point, Yamis.
I'm being held hostage.
We were at 11 people like an hour ago. We're at 14 now, and we've got no hard out. We can just keep going. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, you're like, I want to take a nap.
No, I've got to edit.
Like, no, you don't have to, and you're not gonna. I mean, I know you're saying that as an excuse. You're gonna be like, gotta sleep this off. But we're doing good right now. Damn it! Don't be bailing. I mean, like, we're on a good roll on a conversation. We've got good viewership, like some of the highest we've had in a year. And you're like, I want out. I shouldn't have ate all 6 gummies.
So behind the scenes, I went to my producers and said, at the beginning of the show, I ate a gummy, and this was at like 12:10 and 12:15, and it's like I'm high as fuck right now, and have been for the past hour and a half or hour and 10 minutes or whatever.
And you got 2 more hours.
I'm already coming out of it now.
So you're right to keep going then. Nah.
Like the sun has moved. The sun has passed that golden hour. And it's now whitewashing me.
I mean, to be fair though, if High Yamez is only going to kick us off early, I mean, gonna have to draw the line and start issuing fucking UAs to everybody. But
kicking off early. We've done a 2-hour show. Kicking off early.
It's a Christmas show.
Well, because we're gonna go offline and we're gonna be doing this for another 6 fucking hours, and so it's literally gonna be an 8-hour show, but only 2 of it are gonna be online. I mean, like, so because that's the way we do shit.
I would start editing right now.
And for the rest, if you want the other 4 hours, join the Discord and fucking kick on in. But
ow,
this is how we go some days, but then on some days we do an hour and everybody checks the fuck out immediately because we all got shit to do. So, but hey, for everybody that's in there, if you're not in the Forge chat, I highly recommend you find it in Discord. Join up. It allows you to come in here. I mean, you can get on video, get on the show. say your piece as long as it's within reason and we don't boot you. You could be like Kevin right here and just sit here and mute and or you could be like John and get in here and mute and deafen. So he's in the chat, but he can't hear us or talk to us. It's like, what's the fucking point of that? But hey, find the Forge chat, check us out. And I'm just gonna hit it right now, but before Yamez has to do the intro for final thoughts, while I'm thinking about it, next month is my grandparents' 70th wedding anniversary. 70 years. Like that boggles my fucking mind. All right. And that's an insane amount of time. They were high school sweethearts and married the whole damn time, right? And I mean, they're accepting of me, right? They're like they're cool with who I am. And they're both pushing 90, right? And the every time my mom and her siblings do shifts in Oregon, like watching, being caretaker or whatever, they do quarterly shifts up in Oregon. And well, everybody's going next month for the 70th. And every time my mom goes for her quarter, she goes in the spring. I always send like a bunch of trinkets, like horseshoe hooks and horseshoe nail hooks, and I mean just like or ornaments, just a bunch of random trinkets that as blacksmiths we make just for fun and practice, and they eat that shit up. They love it. They think it's the best thing ever. And they absolutely adore getting to divvy up all the trinkets between all of the family, and so I just wanted to say, give a shout out to my grandparents, Deanne and Jim. Fuck, that took me a
Grandma
minute.
and
Jim and
grandma
Dan
and grandpa.
for 70 years of marriage. I mean, that is I can't imagine living with somebody that long and not killing them. But hey, I mean, like, I guess it is possible. I hope y'all have a few happy more.
It's like
I
your grandparents have been married longer than most of my grandparents lived.
right. No, I mean, like, and I'm a grandparent. Like my grandparents are fixing to do their 70th, and I'm a grandparent. That blows my freaking mind. And if I had had kids as young as I could have had kids, I would already be a great grandparent.
I would say
Like I did not.
you're the only person I know that has like great grandparents still alive to their great grandchildren.
Yeah. No,
That's
I mean, like, it's fucking crazy, dude. I mean, like, it is because everybody in my family had kids really young. Nobody really waited until me. So everybody in my family was born at 18, 19, except for me. I was, my first kid was born at 27. But if I'd had a kid at 17, 18, like that, my grandson would be 18 by now. And could have a kid. You know what I mean? So like I could be, technically speaking, I could be a great grandparent and my grandparents are still alive. And that blows my mind and I find it fascinating. And like in my family, the only person I've lost is my sister. I mean, like, so like we're all still here. And I'm 50 years old and my family is all still here. And like I realized that pretty soon that's going to come to a crashing halt and people are going to start dropping like flies. And if it happens the way that my friends in the trans community have been dropping like flies, I'm not going to handle that well. But anyways, that's my week or 2 weeks in review. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster of a year. Lots has gone on. Lots has transpired. I have survived another year, and hopefully I will survive the next one. And I'm going to do everything I have to do, no matter what that is, to make sure that happens. So, love y'all. I will see y'all next year in 2025. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Y'all have a good time.
Yeah, when you said
Yeah, unless you want to say something.
when you said and that was my 2 weeks, I looked at the clock and I'm like, what? We're still on 2 weeks. How was your 2 weeks? 2 hours later. My goodness. So my final thoughts is I can eat a gummy at the start of the show if the show doesn't go for 2 hours. You know. No, you guys have made a wonderful year. You guys have, talking about how long we've been doing this. Y'all have been, some of you in the chat have been here since I started putting my channel public. So yeah, we've had our ups and downs, but default. Thank y'all. Y'all be safe and have a happy holiday. Drink lots of nog and eat roasted chestnuts.
And my final thoughts is look after yourselves. Remember, we're probably going to, next fortnight, considering it'll be New Year's, we'll probably take that week off so that everyone can actually enjoy their New Year's. And so it's probably going to be a month before we come back.
We'll be back when we get back.
We all know. Yep, we also know that week between Christmas and New Year's kind of is time in limbo. It doesn't really exist. No one knows exactly what's going on, what day it is. So enjoy yourself, eat plenty, get a few extra pounds on because that's what Christmas is all about. Eat as much as you can. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. We all want to see you next year. We want to see you all next year. If you can't, if you must drink, get someone sober to drive. Designate a sober Bob. Sorry?
Call an Uber.
Call an Uber.
Yeah, call an Uber. Yeah. Call a taxi. Designate a sober Bob. Don't drink and drive. We want to see you next year. Don't drink and forge either, because you don't want to end up face first in your forge.
No. I got to say, drinking and forges is fun to a point.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time.
Drink responsibly. How's that? But yeah, so we want to see you all next year. Have a good time. Stay safe. And hammer on. And we'll talk to you all in the new year, 2025. What's that? That'll be what, 6 years of streaming? 5 years of streaming?
Yeah,
6.
Something like
6. It'll be.
if you really think about it, and we'll finalize this. This channel has been streaming since the beginning because I started with streams, and this channel, the blacksmithing aspect of this channel, and I started in, I believe, mid-November, end of November, 2017. So somebody mathed that out, and that's how long this channel has been actively schedule streams.
But we collectively as a group have been doing this since 2019.
Yes.
Yep. So 2025 will mark 6 years of streaming, which is amazing.
Anyways, and I one more thing that I wanted to add in on my final thoughts before Yamez hits the exit button so he can fall asleep. I fly into Austin every now and then, and I Uber all around town and go everywhere I want to go with an Uber. It costs $6 a ride. All right, so don't drink and drive. You can pay $6 to get back to your place, and then $6 to eat your car in the morning. Don't drink and drive. Don't get arrested. Don't get dead. I mean, be safe. Enjoy your New Year's and plan accordingly so that you can be like, fuck it, I'll leave the truck here. We'll come get it tomorrow. Because that's what I'm gonna do. Y'all have a great 2 weeks, and maybe we see you right away. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Well, we're not going to see you next week. So I guess we'll actually see you 2 weeks from now, because it will be after New Year's, right?
Yeah, the 5th is our next.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we
we'll totally be here.
All right. See y'all
So
in a fortnight. David Hastings, Eric, welcome to the end of the stream. And for those of you who were able to pop in because we did a double feature, thank y'all for showing up, and thank everybody for putting up with the ads. I apologize. I didn't know it was going to do that, but here we are.
yeah, as soon as we got demonetized, YouTube started throwing in ads in everywhere. So
Y'all be safe and see you next year.
Bye.
Bye bye.